In this video, I want to talk about a key practice that I started doing when I was running our business after a few years that I found out was really helpful, that helped us to align and helped us to stick together and help to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Hi, my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations. We're a multi-million-dollar translation, digital services, and interpretation company. And after a few years in business, I found out that not everybody thinks the way I do, that not everybody comes to work the way for the reasons that I come to work for, and a lot of times they don't even come to work on time. At first, when you don't have the type of team members that you should have on your team. And one of the things that I did, and I continue to do this day, there's a phrase in the Bible that says, "No discipline seems pleasant for the time, but afterwards it yields the fruit of righteousness," which means when you do discipline things over a period of time, they influence your life in a really positive way. And so I was continually frustrated. Like, why in the world does my team not embody this characteristic? I do. I come to work and I do this and I talk and I just this is something I deeply value. Why doesn't everybody else value that? And after a while, I started to realize, well, I mean, nobody actually told them that in our company this is how we do it. This is how we act, or this is how we behave. And that was like, I know it maybe sounds a little bit, amateur, but that was an amateur mistake that I made. And how I fixed it was I started to make weekly content for my team, specifically for my team. And I started to make videos that I would say, all right, everybody on my team, you need to watch and confirm that you've watched this video every single week. And in those videos, I talk about a value that's intrinsically woven into our company. Now, you're like, oh, well, that's a great idea. You talk about your values each week. Well, once you've talked about your core values, for example, we have 3. Once you've talked about your 3 core values, then what do you do? Like, literally, what do you do? Because there's still, 50 plus more weeks. How are they going to remember that? If you talked about it for 3 weeks out of the year, and then you said nothing for the rest of them, how are they going to remember those core values? So I put a practice in place. I made a commitment to myself. Like I said, this is the discipline that we're going to have to do. And that was, I'm going to have to continually talk about our values and then share those with our team every week. And do it in a way that's engaging, that's interesting, and that really draws out what it is that we do and why we do it. And that is the discipline that, like I said, like the Bible says, no discipline seems pleasant for the time, because it's not really pleasant to make the videos that you say a very similar thing week after week after week. But afterwards, it yields a harvest of righteousness. But afterwards, the discipline that you put in place over that time starts to impact your business really productively and amazingly. I started to see that, because I heard a number of different leaders, really good leaders who were much further along in the process than I was, that said, you know what, determine your values and constantly become the chief reminding officer in your company about what your values are and how you operate. Because if you don't tell them, who's going to tell them? Who's going to share with your team the history, where you came from, the values that got you here, the values that are going to take you forward, and do this on a consistent basis? And as the CEO, that's your job. That's my job to at the top level, make sure that that's visible, and then create cascading information chains and flows and systems inside our company that integrate that into our workflow. So our one-on-one meetings, our follow-ups, our staff meetings, our leadership, executive meetings, our trainings. This is how, I train my leaders to say, okay, this is how this works out in this situation. This is this value coming to life here, and I want you to notice that. I just want to point that out. And just those follow-ups. But the number one thing that I did, which I just want to come back to this because this is, supposed to be a relatively short video. Every single week as a leader, take some time and talk about your core values to your entire team. Every single week, once a week, and it has to be on the same day at the same time, so that you can just maintain that discipline. if you say, well, I'm going to do it on Monday, and then next week I'm going to do it on Thursday, and the next week I'm doing it on Wednesday, and oh, we forgot about it 2 weeks in a row, and then that doesn't work. It won't work. It is bogus. You will not get the result. It has to be the discipline over time, consistently every single week. So you put the discipline in place, and then you do it. And you do it again and again and again. And over time, you reap an incredible harvest from that. And that harvest comes up in different areas. I'm not talking about just financial. I'm talking about people show up to work on time because it's what we do here, because we value that. That's integrity. We have integrity in our work, and we deeply value that thing. We're proactive, right? We live out the book, meaning we treat other people the way we want to be treated. So those things are integrated into our lives and into our work. And because of those values, over time, the people understand that that's who we are as a team. And if you're not like that, you don't belong here. Then they start to adapt and start to bring that out. And then you start to see that whole thing come to life in your company. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, right? It's actually a beautiful thing to see that in all of your company coming out and in different team members, like demonstrating the values that you hold near and dear, that you know will create success over time, and that finally they start to embody and start to take on and act. But if you don't have the discipline as the leader to continually come back to those and teach those every week to your team, then you shouldn't be surprised if you don't see them in your company.